Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Connor. You are currently listening to another episode of Connor Talks Games. Getting amazing with these introductions as time goes on. However, we have another special episode today because today we have the second person ever in the history of this show from New Blood coming on to kind of just introduce themselves and talk a little bit. But without further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. Scott Gurney from New Blood. Scott, care to take it away?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me. I'm Scott. I have worked at New Blood for quite a long time now, pretty much since its, wide inception. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here. I didn't even know there was another person from New Blood on here, so that's cool too. I don't know who you got, but that's awesome.
Yeah, no, thank you for taking time out of your day, but I guess we'll kind of get right into it a little bit here. So, if I remember correctly, development lead and technical production at New Blood,
That's
which,
that's right. Yeah, you could say that. We don't do a lot of like title jockeying at New Blood. It's very fast and loose with its structure, and people fall into the place they need to fall into and do the work they need to do. So, if I have to put a label on it, that's sort of the kind of thing I lean into. But yeah, it's I do the work that needs to be done at New Blood.
should I have guy who gets shit done kind of like next to the official job description?
Perfect. Yeah.
All right, I'll make a note of that here to do that. Sam, make sure you have that on the screen at some point. If he feeds me. I hope he feeds me. So, this is just something I always like to ask every person who comes on the show, but I think we've very briefly talked about it a while ago. How would you say you got your start in this industry?
Well, I went to school for computer science, as one does, thinking, you know, I like playing games and whatever, I'll do that. That sounds like a path to something I might like. Uh, Within, I want to say 3 weeks of starting that program, I had realized that this was not for me at all. And I immediately switched to electrical engineering. The things that were being taught in the curriculum for computer science had nothing to do with what I was interested in. And so I, continued at school for a while and eventually was offered a job at a very large tech company before finishing school. So I actually left school and went to work for that tech company. Uh, I worked there for a couple years. I had three bosses. All of them were named John. Every day was sort of a living hell. It was like a corporate Groundhog's Day. And I was just done with it, man. I could feel myself drifting further away from the things I wanted day by day. And eventually I got to talking with a personal friend of mine, and he had sort of convinced me that why don't we try and make our own game? And so I left my job and went all in on this, spent every dime I had, worked for a number of years. I want to say it was probably 2, maybe 3 years straight, and made every mistake in the book, you know, overscoping projects, not understanding what I was getting into, not having the knowledge required to execute on the vision of the design. Basically, everything you could do wrong in developing video games, I did wrong. And it was a disaster. We never managed to release a product. I made no money off of it. I was basically completely flat broke. Everything was terrible until one day I saw a GIF. Yes, I pronounce it with a hard G on Twitter at the time, the artist formerly known as Twitter, of what would become Dusk. And I thought it looked really cool because I was a huge fan of Quake. And I saw that they were having a showing at PAX. So PAX East, I think this was it was either 2015 or 2016. And I went and visited and got to meet the developer, David Szymanski, who now, is now he's almost a household name in indie games. He just released a film, a feature length film
Iron
in
Lung.
theaters with
Saw it
Markiplier,
last night.
which is weird. Iron Lung, that's right. Yep. I
That's a
actually haven't gotten
topic
to
in of
see it
itself.
yet, which is interesting. Yeah, that's a whole thing, and well, I'm sure we'll get there. But uh, yeah, I got to talking with him and about the product and what they wanted to do with it, and I met Dave, our CEO, as well at that time. And one of the things we had spoken about was they wanted to, they were really widening the scope for what they wanted to do with Dusk, because Dusk originally was going to be like a 10 level affair. It was going to be pretty short and scoped down because that's, David was a solo developer, but he got picked up by Dave. And really, he wanted to make it a fully featured video game, 3 full episodes, and importantly, multiplayer, a multiplayer suite. And I had just happened to, as part of that project that I worked on, that was a total failure. One of the things we did was a Unity based multiplayer game. And so I had the knowledge for it and said, hey, if you need help, I'm glad to do it. I just wanted to help. So this was unpaid at the time. I was just like, if you need someone to help with your multiplayer suite for that game, I'm your man. Just point me in a direction, I'll do it. And so that's what, that's kind of how it started, was just volunteer help on Dusk. There was, you know, some other work with it. It wasn't just work on the multiplayer suite. It was, testing the game, bug reports, assistant programming on it, things like that. Um, and at that time, New Blood was very small. It was literally Dave and David, and I guess Andrew and Christian, who are sort of core to the identity of New Blood, I guess, at least in its early stages. Which, I mean, we can get into the story behind New Blood before me even, which was, you know, Dave got together with a couple of his friends post working on Interceptor games, which was Rise of the Triad, things like that, the 2013 remake. And they had formed their own company to make a VR game, believe it or not. At the time, I believe they were called Hot Blooded Games, not New Blood Games. And they also worked with a guy who is now a
Oh my god.
famous emote on Twitch, Craig of Craigasm. That guy was one of the founding members of New Blood. But he had already parted with the project at that time. So it was like maybe 4 people, 4 to 6, something like that, that was like total. And so I I came on along with a couple other core, who are people who are now pillars of the company, and we could never have made it where we are without them. And they're still here to this day. I don't think we've lost an employee in the entire run I've been here, which is now a decade, basically. There was a small group of us that had kind of been brought on to bring Dusk up. It was volunteer work at first, but by the time Dusk was ready for early access on Steam, which is a whole other story, right? Originally, I gave a talk at your school uh, at one point. I don't know if you were in attendance for it.
Oh, I was there. I was definitely there.
It was, it spoke about managing launches on Steam and how to make the right choices and these sorts of things. And we hadn't learned any of those things about how to use Steam as a platform to reach customers. And we made critical mistakes with the launch of Dusk. Originally, that game was put up for pre-order on Steam, and offered a like early, I'll call it a demo. It was episode 1 of the game was offered alongside a pre-order. So if you pre-ordered the game, it granted you access to a separate application on Steam that would like give you episode 1 of the game. And when we had done that, we quickly realized that like there's something here. Because there were a lot of people who were super interested in the game and it was growing and growing. And so eventually, and also we took pre-orders, so we had some money coming in. So eventually people started making money, right? Like we started hiring people, having actual employees who are not just volunteers. And one thing led to another. Eventually we reached early access and 1.0 of Dusk, and it wasn't an instant success. We saw like some amount of success on the first day. Dusk launched. We were all sweating bullets, very nervous. I had actually physically collapsed because I had worked for like 65 hours without sleep. It was like a real
Oh, jeez.
I like blacked out in my bathtub basically. It was like a whole thing, but we weren't like immediately satisfied with the numbers. But then the next day happened and the numbers were the same, and the next day happened and the numbers were the same, and the next day happened, and every day we were getting reasonable numbers, and it just kept selling and it kept selling and it kept selling, and it really created like a good baseline for us to like expand the operation and finish other projects. And eventually we've led to where we are now. There's a lot of things that happened in between, multiple games that we parted ways with, and also took on new projects. And obviously the big one now is Ultrakill. We're working very hard on that right now. I can't speak too much about specifics because we are so heads down on trying to provide a new update, which all of its players who are closely following the game are probably well aware of. If you've been looking at the Twitter accounts and all that sort of thing, you'll know that it is soon at hand that you'll have some new Ultrakill to enjoy. But yeah, that's the biggest thing on our plates right now. But we have a lot of things going on, but yeah, that's the summary story of sort of how we ended up where we are today, where I'm on some podcast about how I got here. So yeah.
Well, thank you for that summary of your anime journey with the multiple seasons and the OVA spinoff as well. The passing out the bathtub arc in particular, I very much enjoyed, but it's a
Yeah,
great one.
it's a
But
great
it
one.
is
Yeah.
something that I do often hear a lot is the long hours backed up by honestly, like not even just a lot of the people I talk to nowadays have literal anime insertions into how they got their start, which sounds crazy, but that kind of just how it is with the whole making your look type thing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the long hour things, I don't believe that it's necessary. I really don't. I think that if you it's different for everyone and for every team, and
Hmm.
I can't like I'm not an authority on this. The thing that you have to understand, and I think it's a widely known thing, is that putting more hours in does not mean the product is better, right? It's about the quality hours that are put in, which are far fewer when you're working yourself to the bone, right? If you're strung out and stressed and have no sleep, the quality of the work you're putting in is going to degrade a lot. And that's not helpful for the end product. If anything, you might even just be making it worse actively. And then you have to spend more time to dig yourself out of the hole that you've just made. So like everyone talks about crunch in the industry, right? And like it's a big deal. And like I get it, and I'm sympathetic to the the forces that create it, and I understand how it happens, and it happens at New Blood too. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. Oh, we don't crunch, we don't crunch. We say that, we've said that many times, but it's not entirely true. But there's different places that crunch can come from, right? There's places of mismanagement, there's places of excitement, there's places of mistake or overscoping, right? So not every time you end up crunching has the same factors. It's not always because a CEO wanted to appease a shareholder, right? Sometimes it's, hey, we got really excited about this, and just kept working 12-hour days every day for a week because I really wanted to see this through, right? That happens too. And so, like, yeah, there's sometimes crunch can be I'm not gonna call it a good thing, but it can come from a more innocent place than just corporate
Mhm.
overlords trying to make a buck.
That is definitely one of the main concerns that I often have people ask me, at least when I get questions sent in, is what do the work hours look like and how they could effectively shape your week. So thank you for clarifying and answering that. I actually do have another question, and this one, I guess, depending, might be difficult to answer, but I will swing at you with it anyways. I'll try not to hit your teeth. If you had to say what your favorite game or games were, what would they be and why?
That's a tough question. That's always that's that's a real tough one. Okay. There's like, I'm obviously, like, I'm a games maniac, right? I love games. I live games. It's everything to me. But I think that you like certain games for different reasons, right? Like, some of them may have a story that you really resonate with, or a mechanic you really enjoy, right? So like, just some examples, right? Like, I'm a huge fan of Quake, the original Quake. I love Quake, but the reasons for that are multifaceted, right? If you compare a game like Quake to a modern shooter, there are things that the modern shooter have that Quake cannot possibly compare to, right? Whether it's visuals or, a really robust set of features or whatever, right? So there are some objective ways I could say that, well, Quake is not as good as this game or that game. But I can tell you that I still think that the core fundamentals behind Quake are nearly perfect, in terms of movement and shooting, and the levels and the way the game progresses. And I think the way that it looks, and the way that it sounds, and the way that it feels. But ultimately, the real reason Quake is a favorite game of mine just has to do with a time and a place, right? I experienced that game when I was really young. I downloaded it off the internet in like the late 90s, early 2000s, and it felt like a forbidden portal into a world I had never seen before, because it was so different from the games I had been allowed to play in my youth, right? Obviously, I was not of the age that was recommended to be playing a bloody, violent game, but that's, what I played, and it impacted me in a way, right? So it was like very right time, right place for Quake. And so, it like, emotionally, that game is a favorite of mine. But if you want to talk about like favorite games to play, like stuff like that, I can go look at games like you know, I'm a huge fan of Japanese arcade games, and more specifically shooting games, or what people might know as a shmup. I'm a huge fan of those games, and there's a broad variety of them that I could talk about for hours and hours, and I'll spare you that very specific niche interest. But like, something like a Battle Garaga in that category, you could say, is at a top of enjoyable games. Or obviously people talk about Dodonpachi, right? That's another game that I love a lot, even though it's maybe not my favorite. We talk about games from that developer, Cave. I think the favorite game of mine from them is Esprade. Probably not a game you've heard of. That's fine. I think mechanically and thematically, the game is super fun and engaging and cool, and I think everyone should play it. But it really, I just want to stress the importance of that genre. I think has a distillation of elements of what a video game is that anyone seriously interested in designing games, I guess in particular action games, right? Because it's not a strategy game, it's not, you know, a simulation game, it's an action game. They really need to seriously look at this era of games, these mid to late 90s Japanese arcade games, specifically shoot 'em ups. They have so few elements available that they need to deliver to the player in a short amount of time on a budget, quite literally. The player puts in a coin, right? So they're like the clock is ticking, every second matters. It's full throttle right from the start. And every element weighs so much when you have that experience that it really can teach you a lot about the ways you can affect what the player does and how they interface with your game. And that's really the important part here. It's not the specific game. It's the design ethos behind it that I think a lot of game developers, designers more specifically,
Hmm.
need to be examining in the modern era. I think we've seen a trend of games that have lost their way in the uh, sort of live service swamp, we'll say, where they no longer have a core foundational principle that the game is built on that they want to deliver to the player. It's now about just extracting wealth from a player in this like miasma of designs that don't really fit together. And I think that we'll see games that are simple and truthful about their mechanics and about what they want to engage the player with, the dialogue they have between the player and the game. Those games are going to be the ones people remember and the ones that are successful uh, in the modern age. I truly believe that.
Fair enough. I like the what was I gonna say? The comparison between what you personally find to be tasteful in the older era of, I guess, the Japanese cabinet arcade games. Wasn't fuck, I'm trying to remember. I think it was called Alien Soldier. Was that was the
Yep, yep.
it's
Alien
the
Soldier,
oh,
excellent game. Excellent game. You should if anyone is listening to this and you haven't played Alien Soldier, play Alien Soldier. That's important. I think it's available on Steam. I'm sure it's not a great port. It's probably just some crappy emulator that they actually maybe they removed it from Steam.
I
I think
don't
they
see it
did.
on Steam. Mm,
It is there. It is there. I think they
oh,
removed it.
piss.
Yeah, it's no longer available in the Steam store. So that's unfortunate. But anyways, there are ways to play old video games. I don't need to explain it. Emulation exists. I'm just saying it's a what an incredible video game. Playing 30 minutes of Alien Soldier will teach you more than playing 300 hours of whatever modern 2026 live service game you want to play. I truly believe that it is critically important that you can understand that these games that are simpler have to be more well thought out than games that distract the player with a bunch of ancillary things that don't matter to the core experience. The skins, the boxes, season passes, all of those things. They're not well thought out. They're tacked on. They're not part of the core design. And like games where you can see the core design more openly, more bare and true to its form, you can engage with in a way that is more meaningful and will provide you with more entertainment. I guarantee it.
I think that does bring up a rather interesting kind of situation that at least most modern games find themselves in is it's kind of sandwiched between the idea of games as an art, making them for the enjoyment of the masses with the creativity, but as the years have gone on, it's kind of turned more corporate in some sectors based on what I've seen.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. There's absolutely no question that as the games industry has proliferated, we have more users than ever. We have more ways to play video games than ever. And so it has become more attractive for large corporate interests to use it as a wealth extraction mechanism, right? And so, I mean, and that's fine. This happens in every industry, right? You can talk about the movie industry, how corporate Hollywood destroyed art in its own way. And that's not, I want to be clear here. Games as art is completely valid and still exists. And there are lots of small creators who are doing the right thing out there and like are just, they're living their own truth. And I love it and respect it. And, more power to them. I think it's great. But these large entities serve a purpose to the industry, right? They garner more interest. It's an easier onboarding into the world of video games, right? Where you have a large product and then they can use it as a vehicle to explore, right? A consumer can play Call of Duty or Fortnite or something and say, hey, I really like this aspect of it. What else is out there for me, right? And maybe they'll discover another game from there and in their journeys make their way to more niche specific things that cater to them, right? And are more personal experience that they like. And so the whole spectrum needs to be there, I think, in order for us to be able to grow sustainably and have new users and still appease older, more entrenched users. And there's space for all of it, I think. Um, Now, with regards to sustainability, that's a whole nother topic, right? These large games as a service games that have huge employment turnovers. We've seen record numbers of layoffs, things like that. That is a whole right. And
Uh-huh.
I'm sure this is something you're
Ugh.
struggling with right now, looking for jobs in the industry, things like
Don't
that.
have my camera on, but I'm just hitting the Our Father who art in heaven real quick. Just
Yeah.
gotta.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's a difficult situation and I truly, truly feel badly that so many people have to experience this because I'm in like I can recognize that I have such a position of like I don't want to call it privilege. I just want to call it luck. Like I got so lucky meeting the right people at the right time and like just it's been New Blood. Working in New Blood is not without its downsides. I could go on for hours about it. I'm not going to, but ultimately the leadership there has been extremely graceful in the amount of leeway we're provided as individuals and understanding and just the ability to operate without feeling like the sky is falling around me because a shareholder is unhappy with this quarter's numbers, right? And I know that there are so many game developers out there that have to live under that shadow. And I truly feel badly for them. And so, like, yeah, I spent a lot of time talking about how, I'm not a fan of these large products, but they're safer products and they allow more jobs. And so that's why I think there is space for them in the industry, whether or not I feel like they're, you know, conducive to a better product. They're a
Mhm.
product that serves a specific market.
You're over here. talking about all those woes, I guess I might as well step in a little bit and kind of just talk about the personal experiences with being somebody who's still kind of trying to navigate through it. Um, so I guess in my particular instance, I knew going in back when I started in 2020, there was one particular faucet that I wanted to puncture my way into about as quickly as possible. Although COVID kind of bent me over and touched me six ways from Sunday, so unfortunately that didn't factor out in the end. But my lifelong dream has been to work in AAA. And unfortunately, given the circumstances on top of the pool getting bigger, the consistent entry requirements have put me in a position where, while I am fabricating my own experience, I'm just kind of getting beaten out by people who are unfortunately more qualified. And we do have instances of people, like you said, Scott, who have effectively struck lightning in a bottle. Out of my entire graduating class of, I think it was about 50 or 60 or so, there was only two people who had an actual solid lead that I knew of out of the gate. The one intern that you had, who then went on to work at your company, and now this other person who ended up working at Hypergriff because he spoke Mandarin.
Wow.
I don't speak Mandarin, and unfortunately, I did not get lightning struck in a bottle. It should have been me, Barry. No, already got all that out. Um, but it's really a situation of I just have to keep fabricating, I guess, experience and working on projects. Kind of what I'm doing right now with this whole thing with the podcast, try to put myself out there and have people on there to talk about their experiences. But also, Hoyo, if you're listening, please, I beg, hire me. It's a running gag I like to do every episode. I play most of their shit, but I
Yeah,
digress.
I mean, listen, I there was a time where I won't name specific names here, but I applied to work at, I won't even say applied. I wrote a letter to the head of a studio that was not a AAA studio, not at least not a traditional AAA studio. And the response I got back was, "Hey, you should go try working in AAA first," which feels backwards, right? At least to me. It was, "Hey, like they were a smaller scale studio. I think it was maybe between 15 and 20 people. You know, hey, go
Hmm.
work at the big show before coming here rather than the other way around." So, I honestly, like, a lot of people have asked me, like, "Oh, how do you get a job in the industry? How do you get in the—" And like, I don't have there is no cure all answer, right? I'm not one to tell you you've been trying to get a job in the industry for God knows how long, and have tried
uh,
every method under the sun to do it. There's no magic answer, and every every studio, every person in a hiring position there clearly has a different set of ideas about it, right? They like this this studio thought, "Oh, well, we want you to have AAA experience before coming here." And then you go ask a AAA studio and they say, "Hey, we want you to have a personal portfolio, right? Go work on some independent stuff first or whatever," right? So it's uh, there's no one answer. And the stupid old adage, right place, right time. It's not what you know, it's who you know, and those sorts of things. They're all still valid, even in the world of video games. And it feels bad to say because it's not like a hopeful message that, like, hey, as long as you went to school for it and worked hard, you're gonna get a job, because it's not the truth, right? Uh,
mhm.
it's I mean, it's a better way to guarantee that guarantee is the wrong word. It influences your chances in a positive manner to have that experience under your belt, right? Because there is a minimum sort of level of knowledge that you will be imbued with having graduated from a program, that an employer could be reasonably, you know, secure in thinking that you could meet a bar of productivity or what have you. I don't know, struggling to find the right words for it, but yeah, it's I do feel almost a survivor's guilt, about it, because there are people who I know work harder than I do every day to try and get a job, and they haven't been able to find one. Whereas I just went to a convention and talked to a guy and said, "Hey, you know, I can help out on your project." And I was in a position, an advantageous position that not everyone has, where I was able to be broke and work for free, which is not a luxury that everyone has, right? You got to pay rent. I was living with my parents at the time, so it was because I had spent every dollar that I had on trying to make the dream happen, and it didn't pan out at all, and I was left with nothing. I mean nothing. I didn't finish my school. I didn't have a product to show anyone. All I had was the experience of failing, and that was all I was able to carry with me forward, and managed to find my way in somehow. And I'm still here, still working on dumb video games. I mean, where I work for a very niche little video game development studio, and we're never gonna be in the history books as some legendary company that changed the way people thought about games. We're not like a From Software or Capcom or id Software or anything like that. But I get to work on creatively fulfilling stuff, and interact with fans who seem to like the stuff that we put out. And I got a roof over my head and food on the table, so I don't have much to complain about. So it's it's far be it from me to be giving advice to people how they should be approaching getting a job. But man, uh, you know, I feel bad about it, and it is I can acknowledge how tough it is.
It is rough, and again, from someone who is quite literally in the trenches, just grinding it out, trying to make it work, you definitely got to be built for it. But I don't think that dejects or removes you from, your experiences. Well, yeah, you are in a position. I mean, you foot slogged as much as anyone else to get to that point. And like you said, I mean, it kind of just happens. I guess there is no direct form of entry. Every person I've literally ever talked to, either through a connection at a convention or something, it's literally isekai levels of anime bullshit where it just happens. There's no if and or but about it. And I had this conversation when the episode goes live at some point with the other person where yeah, you may have been one of two who got in, but still, you got in and you're making it work. And I think that in of itself as well, it can be very inspiring to some, or at least that's how I look at it. I don't know if I'm making this better or worse, but I figured I'd just
No,
say
yeah, I mean,
that part.
it's totally correct. And I think with, like, I still consider New Blood indie. I know a lot of people wouldn't consider it that way.
Ultrakill!
Right. But the thing is, success of that magnitude doesn't make it not indie, right? Indie is not
Mhm.
about the money. And I'm sure some listeners will disagree with me on that, and they'll say, well, if you have a huge budget, you can make a bigger scale product and have more people and all of that. And I can appreciate that, but I think that it has more to do with the principles of development rather than anything to do with a budget, right? It's the do it yourself attitude. It's that sort of thing, the je ne sais quoi of independent developers, right? Uh, we can attribute Hakeda's work to his undying, relentless vision and drive to make the thing that is inside of his brain. It is remarkable. Working with Hakeda is just an insane experience. He knows exactly what he wants to see. Exactly, he has it so clearly in his head. And no amount of budget, whether it be $100, $1,000, $1,000,000, $1 billion is going to change that vision in his head, right? It's not, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter how many people you hire to help him achieve that vision. Ultimately, he has the hands-on approach for it, and he's going to get in there and do it himself and make it the way that he sees it needs to be done. And that's what makes it still an indie game, right? If you want to talk about other games that are super successful, take something like Silk Song, right? They probably made tens of millions of dollars off of that game. And it's like four people, and all of them are there every day making the thing that they see, right? The vision that they have. And it doesn't matter how much money they made off of Hollow Knight and how much they made off of Silk Song. Sure, it's great, and I'm super happy for their success as well as Hockey does. But I think that it's more about the attitude, and that's like where we had like a really fundamental like agreement with everyone at New Blood in the early days and even now is it's like a very driven thing. Everyone is doing things because they want to be there doing them. It's not because it's their job or because it's, just a way to make money. They're there because they're trying to make rad shit. And like that's the truth. And that's, I think it speaks to customers, right? When they can see the sort of creators behind it in the work, just making the shit they want to make, it it speaks to an audience. And like finding that audience is the hard part, and that's something that we did really well really early on. We grew our Discord, our little community Discord now, which I can check in now and say, okay, how many people is in the New Blood Discord? Let me have a look. It's 236,000 people. That's a lot of people. Right. Yeah. So it's a massive Discord, massive community, what you would call a captive audience, right? They're people who are going to buy our product, people who want to be there, interfacing with other people who like our product. And that all started because the developers of the games at New Blood were in there every day talking to the people who were in there. Even when it was like 30 people in that Discord, myself and David Szymanski and Dave, the CEO, we were sending messages in there and talking with people every day. We were engaging with the community, and it was all self-grown. None of it was like non-organic, which I think was like really important to our success. And like if there's one thing I would stress to people trying to hack it on their own, it's that is like a way to do it. Like you can build it from the ground up just by being truthful to yourself. And like I'm not going to tell you it's easy, because money is always going to be an obstacle, and until you have a product out with an audience that's consuming it, it's going to be a struggle. And so that's why like working in a AAA or a AA or whatever, right? That's the safer bet, because you can get a salary and just not think about these difficult things like finding a community and building an audience and these sorts of things. You can just take a paycheck, and like that's good enough for a lot of people. And both are very valid ways of existing in this weird industry, but I just stress that both ways are viable, I feel personally.
Which always falls back to there is no right or wrong answer to kind of getting in. It just happens.
Right, yeah, totally.
And
It just happens, and yes, you have to put the effort in to make it happen. Like you can't just sit around waiting for an email in your inbox, right? You got to talk to people. You got to put yourself out there, or you have to make shit, right? You have to just get down, roll up your sleeves and make shit, right? That's what all of the developers at New Blood who brought in a project, whether that be Ultrakill or Gloomwood or Dusk or any of the games we worked on, they just started making shit. They didn't wait for some sign. They just made stuff, and eventually ended up with us as partners and now get to live the real dream, right? Like some of these games have been massively successful and opened the way to a new life for them, right? Like we talked about earlier, but David Szymanski was making small-time indie games, indie horror games. You can go look up what he made, Finger Bones and the Moon Sliver and all these other games that he made that were really small time. We're talking like on an order of like a couple hundred downloads, maybe a couple thousand downloads. And then he made Dusk, and that was super successful. And now he's able to make whatever the hell he wants. And he has a family, and he's working with famous people like Markiplier. He has a internationally released film in like 100 countries or something. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But all of that was just because he started making stuff. You know, he didn't wait for someone to tell him to make it, and he didn't think like, "Oh, I can't do this." I, I I don't want to speak for him, but if I recall correctly, he was working at a dollar store at the time. And he was also to like even during even when it had become clear Dusk would be a success, he was tuning pianos on the side to make cash. Like that's someone who just decided I'm going to make this work hell or high water, and I have a lot of respect for that. I didn't have to go through any of these struggles, right? Like I tried and failed to do it, and then I ended up at a company working on other people's games, and like that's such a beneficial position to be in. Like I don't have to worry about risking it all on some project of mine. I get to work on other people's projects where they're putting it all on the line. And I can acknowledge how crazy that is, right? Like that I get to both benefit from the success and not take the risk. And that's nuts.
I don't know, it's just, yeah, it's the, you gotta grind, you gotta get down into it. I mean, shit, Zeker's with Lethal Company. I think he was 16 or 17 when he made that, and it made like what, 2 million copies
Right. I
sold.
don't even
Guy
want to
had
think
kids
about how much
effectively.
money that kid has made. It's upsetting, honestly.
It's, but I mean, small time, a lot of Roblox based horror games. And then I remember the original trailer got maybe like a couple of thousand views. And then Lethal Company drops, and then there's this whole new genre of what is colloquially known as friend swap games.
Right.
All because of this one little dudes in suits dancing and selling scrap and getting attacked by creatures that want to do things to them. It's absolutely crazy. And I mean, there is that level of luck that does come into making games. Obviously, if the community doesn't pick up on it, you can make probably the most beautiful thing known to man, and it'll probably go in the dumpster if no one buys it. But I mean, the highs, the lows, just the sheer enjoyment of it. I mean, I'm a producer in my spare time, right? I work at Project Cyclone Productions as the creative director of the games division. I got a shit ton of interns running around under my belt, and for no other reason, I just fucking love this shit. It's awesome. I
Yeah, it's
get
a lot of
to
fun.
work with people. I get to make, literal art projects come to life. I get to tell the designers to coordinate with the programmers. I get to have the artists do the art. I get all this going, and I own the post and the pre-production, and it's all awesome. Now, with that being said, I am still just a little salty at a company that shall remain nameless. For context, for those who do not know, and I guess you can kind of draw the conclusion there, said company is known for a very popular hentai game series on Steam. Now, to me personally, game is game. I'm not gonna, a start's a start. So I sent in an application. And in the most professional way possible, they told me, gamer, you are way too qualified for this. Go shoot somewhere else. And I'm thinking, damn, AAA won't take me, but damn, even at the lowest rung of the ladder, not even the fucking hentai game company wants me. But that's just a little thing. Actually, speaking of funny stories, Scott, I remember when I think it was at the Clark Expo, we inquired if you could come over for a game of poker,
That's right. I do remember
and
that.
I remember you did. And currently, our lead designer, he was in the elevator with me when we were coming up. I'm like, what if I told you that we had a guy from New Blood sitting in that room right now, just, casually talking. He told me, I think you're a madman. I open the door, he peeks in, he looks back at me, and he goes, I will never doubt your decision making again, or your ability to say things.
Yeah, I
It was
mean,
a great night for
it
reference. That
was a
was
fun night for
awesome.
sure. I would, that was a unique experience.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I mean, it's just a very enjoyable thing, and I guess I am in a weird skill set position either way because I do production, but my sub skill set is writing, which I do for a living right now. But I digress. Now this question was going to come up at some point, and I think every time you have given a talk at Clark and or shown up at an expo, it was thrown your way. But just to kind of ask it, how many times a week would you say you get asked about Ultrakill?
You know, surprisingly few because I make my presence like very minimal online with regards to Ultrakill. Like whenever I go to an event or something like that, I'll get asked about it, obviously. Like as if you have an association with New Blood, you're going to get questions about Ultrakill. That is like just a universal law at this point. Um, it's an interesting experience because I never thought we would reach that sort of level of, I guess, recognition just off a name alone. Oh, Ultrakill, right? Yeah, like I've played that or whatever. Like I walked into a sandwich shop the other day wearing my Ultrakill hoodie, and two people were like, "Oh, dude, I love that hoodie. I play that game." I was like, "Oh, okay, interesting." Just even something as simple as, and I didn't tell them, "Oh yeah, I work on that video game," because what does that benefit me to do that? Because like ultimately it's not my game, it's Hakida's game, and I like to, it's something that's important to me is that the actual designers get the recognition for their work, because like we can slap our name New Blood on it, but there are people behind it too. And so you'll notice that like if you look at our games in the Steam library, the designer's name is on every one of those posters. They all say a game by Hakida or a David Szymanski joint, or a film by whoever, right? Like they all of our key art for those games make sure to have attribution for the designers. So it's not something that I like to take credit for. Like, oh yeah, I work on Ultrakill, Um, it's I just happen to work at the company that is graced with being allowed to work on these titles. Uh, and so it's fun to interact with the fans, and I'm happy to do it anytime. I'm more than happy to talk shop with the fans and, tease them where it's appropriate about upcoming things. But it's also not my place to be, waving about that, hey, I work on Ultrakill. Yeah, it's a big deal, whatever. Like, I'm not the kind of guy. I'm not like a limelight kind of guy. I really like to work in the background and be unknown. Even like you can see that even in something as simple as like the Ultrakill Dev Museum. There's all the developers get like a plushie of themselves or whatever, and I didn't put myself in at all. So my plushie in there is this like pink bird, and what that is it's a logo that my friend uses for his like little secret club. And actually the logo he didn't even design. Well, I mean, he designed this specific logo, but it's stolen from a laserdisc player from Pioneer from like the 80s. So it's like just not, it's like a totally illegitimate design that has nothing to do with me. Uh just to sort of distance myself from that, because it's just I don't feel comfortable taking credit for those sorts of things. And maybe that's something that like I need to personally grow and be okay with, uh, taking credit for the work that I do or whatever. But ultimately, I like to see the designers get their flowers as it is, you know?
I'm sure New Blood is very honored to have you at the company performing the work you do.
Oh yeah, it's such an honor. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, get
Yeah.
this man a raise.
I wish.
If it's me saying it, it's completely fine. I'm in no way affiliated with your company, so allow me to be the one to say that I think you do amazing work and that you deserve a higher lot in that company. I digress.
I
Don't
appreciate it. I
shoot me,
do.
New Blood Assassins, by the
There
way,
are none of
if you
those.
are out there.
The closest thing they have is me. I'm the new
Oh,
blood
fuck.
assassin.
Ah, shit. I just ousted myself, didn't I?
No, you're
But no,
good.
I mean, we've had many a conversation on just game design shit, like the current situation in the industry, just how hard one is grinding. Actually, I wouldn't mind taking 5 minutes real quick to just discuss the Iron Lung movie, because, oh my God, that was.
Yeah, I,
I
I
th
mean that's a really cool thing, and that's awesome that you got to see it. I just have been so busy, I haven't had a chance to yet. I'm sure I will.
I'll keep the spoilers to a minimum, but if there is one thing I will say, I am very impressed with their ability. I think the term in television is bottle episode, where the actual shooting happens in one area for pretty much the entire duration of it. I think if you're obviously a fan of the game or you're just a fan of Markiplier, you will not be disappointed. But just generally speaking, even for appreciation of indie films, that's definitely one that I would highly recommend.
Yeah,
But
I I got
ooh,
to see,
it gets
some behind the scenes stuff as it was being made because obviously Andrew composed the music. Andrew Holschult, he did the soundtrack for Dusk and the Medieval, and he's been working on other projects with us. He does a lot of our sound effects work too. He's a great, great dude. Some of the best business. He also wrote the soundtrack for Doom Eternal's DLC. And all sorts. I think he wrote some music for Quake Champions too. So he works with id Software here and there, and yeah, he's just really one of the most genuine dudes ever. He's so nice and so fantastic. Uh, he worked with Mark and David. Obviously, I have played the Iron Lung game. I haven't checked the movie out, but like obviously, great game. And David did that as like a release after he made Dusk. He did that by himself. It's not affiliated with New Blood in any way, but is, two people who are very close to New Blood and work with us. Uh, but they did it on their own, and it's all super, super cool. Uh, um, like just the stories I got to hear about how great Mark is to work with, and uh like seeing some of the behind the scene photos. So I heard that they may have actually set a record, like a world record for the most amount of fake blood ever used in a film for Iron Lung. I saw some photos of that, like the setup for that. I mean, we're talking like they had like tens of thousands of gallons of fake blood. And I'm sure you saw it in the film, but like yeah, that's some crazy stuff, man. I'm
oh,
what a cool little project to do. And like I don't think Markiplier had any like aspiration for this to be such a runaway success as it was. I think he just really wanted to make something cool with people that he enjoyed working with, David and Andrew, and obviously all the other. I'm sure there are several dozen really hardworking people who I don't know the names of who are on that film, and congratulations to every single one of them because it clearly, by all accounts, a self-made movie with no external funding is like a remarkable feat to have in theaters internationally and just have it blow up the box office too. I think that's great. And maybe it's not a high art film or anything like that, but it's a cool film and it's made by cool people, and I think that should be celebrated. That's something that's as small in scope as it is, find that success. I think it's just so cool.
it's the appreciation of not only the indie film, but also taking a game that it did seem like a bit of a tall order to make it work, but they made it work, and I think that's just honestly at the end of the day really neat. But I actually do have one last question for you. Uh, if you mind me inquiring, what are you currently playing as far as games are concerned?
What am I currently playing? That's a good question. Let me think. So I there's a number of games I've been playing. I've been practicing a little bit of the game Armed Police Bat Rider. I'm trying to get my advanced course 1cc. So this means nothing to anyone who's listening to this, but that's fine. Uh, I've been playing, believe it or not, Virtua Fighter 5, a game which came out 20 years ago initially, but has been being updated all the time. I think it's a magnificent fighting game, and I think people who are into fighting games should really give it a chance. Forget Street Fighter and Tekken and Guilty Gear and all those other games. Go play Virtua Fighter. It's a 3-button game. It's only 3 buttons, but I can guarantee you that you will get blown up and you'll have no idea what you're doing, and it'll be fun the entire time. I recently was doing a little bit of Diablo 2. Actually, I think in 2 hours from now, there's something to do with Diablo happening. I don't really know what's going on. I'm gonna check it out, but I'm a lifelong Diablo fan. Love the series. Always happy to go back to it and play it again. Uh, excellent, excellent game. And I have been playing a so I got together with some friends a while back, and one of them brought a board game that we all get together sometimes to play, like, tabletop games, whether it be a board game or like some like Magic or even Warhammer or something like that. Um,
Or Hammer, you say?
yeah,
As
it's
I stare at my innumerable collection of pile of shame. It's okay, Great Knight Dreadnought. I'll put you together at some point. Still need to think of a name for him, but anyway, continue.
very good, very good. But yeah, and one game was this that they brought was this game called Aeon's End. Um, and I was stunned by how badly we lost that game. It was just not even close. We got destroyed by the game, and I was really taken aback at it because I hadn't lost at a board game so badly since that. Maybe the last time was maybe Kingdom Death Monster, which was like, if you're
That's a fun one.
yeah, it's a fun one, but I definitely didn't lose it as bad as I lost this. But anyways, I found out that there's a version of Aeon's End on Steam, and so I have been playing a little bit of that to try and get better at it. I'm happy to announce that I did manage to win at least once, which is cool. But it's also on like the most basic difficulty. like really, I think it's a pretty interesting game. It's made in a way that seems very basic, and it is a basic game, but there's really a lot of thought you have to put into the decisions that you make, and it is just tuned to like an absolute fine edge. I really was impressed. The time I won, I managed to win with exactly 1 HP left. It was really incredible. And I think it's an interesting game. And maybe if you're into any tabletop stuff, it's a sort of a deck builder, I guess. It's a pretty interesting game, and it's cheap on Steam. It's like $1. Actually, it's $1.94 right now. There you go.
It is on sale
It is on sale. Yes.
till February 16th.
Yeah. It's not like any. It's not breaking down the doors right now, but like, it's an interesting game. I don't know. I thought it was cool, and I'm interested to learn a little more about it as I go on. But yeah, that's kind of most of what I've been playing, other than the stuff I have to play of our games for work, which right now, if I have to plug them a little bit, it's Ultrakill has a forthcoming update that has been a year in the making. Uh, Gloomwood has just received a major update a couple weeks back and is getting follow-up updates for that update. Will be cool. And then for the Steam Next Fest that is coming up very soon, uh, we have a new game that is being available for the first time, and that is Dungeons of Dusk. And that is a dungeon crawling RPG set in the universe of Dusk. There's a Steam page for it if you want to check it out. It's developed by the 68K Studios guy who is he has made several pretty well received, I would say, dungeon crawlers on Steam. Ludus Mortis is his most recent one. Pretty cool game. So yeah, check that out when it comes out or whatever. I can probably send you a key for it or whatever, if you want to play it. I don't know if you're a dungeon crawler kind of guy, but yeah,
I will never say no to a New Blood game
free
key,
video
personally.
games. I love free video
Well,
games.
that and I mean, aside from like the amount of sucking off that I've probably been doing this entire time, everything you guys put out is pure quality. But I guess I'll kind of go in a little detail as to what I've been kind of fucking
Yeah, yeah,
around with
please. I want to know
recently.
what you've been playing. Let me know.
Well, let's get all the boring modern bullshit out of the way. So, a big, massive Warhammer fan, so I've been playing fucking Dark Tide. I've been playing a bit of
Dark Tide rules, man.
Space
What
Space Marine 2
what do they call it? Is it not Inferno level? What is it called again? What's the levels in Dark Tide?
in Dark Tide.
Yes, in Dark Tide. They have it goes like 1 through 40. What is the level called in Dark Tide? It's been a while since I
I think
played.
you are you referring to Space Marine based off of the name there,
No, it's
or
Dark
was that
Tide.
it's Dark Tide? Okay, I might be tripping. Like levels of difficulty, or
Yeah.
yeah, it's I believe it's like Uprising all the way up to Auric, Damnation, Malice,
Havoc.
Havoc. Oh fuck! No, oh, okay. So, funny story. Um, I have a character in that game called Beats the Homeless. He is an Arbite. And thing about it is, I thought to myself, what is the most like? How can I make this be like as stereotyped of a what you would expect from a cop in the 41st millennium? Well, I made him as short as possible, and I gave him a handlebar mustache, and he uses a stick,
Very
and it's
good.
absolutely beautiful. But another thing about that game that I've discovered, and this is actually something I've discovered recently, if it is a cutesy anime song, like the cuter the better, I lock the fuck in like nobody's business. I don't know why. I have this specific soundtrack on my playlist. It's literally just titled "To Lock In," and half of it, all of it, is just Uma Musume Pretty Derby stuff. Have a bit of Snail's House in there. Obviously, I think I have maybe like one or two astrophysics songs in there as well, but it's just what sounds cute and am I gonna lock it? And as it turns out, yes. Yes, I am.
So
Pretty funny
what
shit, but
Havoc level are we up to?
I think last I checked I was at 30.
That's pretty good. That's pretty damn good, man.
It's fucking pain is what it is. I mean, like, I feel like when it comes to the Havoc difficulty, it's like, okay, 1 through 10, you can maybe fuck up. 10 through 20, okay, you gotta lock it. Once you hit like 30 all the way up to 50, it's you can't stop for even a second, or else like if a poxwalker comes up and flicks you, he'll fucking kill you. But I probably should continue on with the list here. So Space Marine 2, just kind of waiting for the new update for that to come out. I know the playtest is live, but I prefer to wait till the fully released version comes out so I can spend more money on chapter skins and cry myself to sleep. Uh, I got boring gotcha bullshit. I like Hoyo games, so I play a bit of Zenless Zone Zero. I'm a big Star Rail fan. To complete the trifecta, Fate Grand Order, but I would not recommend playing that for the gameplay. You're
FGO
playing that for
fan,
the
huh?
story, period.
That's fair. That's fair. I know a lot of people who are into FGO.
Uh, I do play. I played a bit of Night Rain. I actually got something scheduled after this, unironically with that. Waiting to do the new thing with a friend.
How is Night
Also
Rain?
doing Night Rain is fun, but in my opinion, out of all the FromSoft like games that have come out, it's good, not great. And I think that mostly stems from the fact that it is kind of like a roguelike, and that's not everybody's shtick.
That's
But
fair.
it's impressive because it's From Software's first attempt at making an actually cohesive multiplayer game.
Yeah,
I don't have to, no cryptic bullshit, just completely making it work. But I did a build recently where I don't know how familiar you are with the memes, but the Revenant, she's got a joke where we call her the Bean, and she's a tiny, cute little angry creature that likes to wield the big weapons, even though she's absolutely ass with them. But they recently added in the ability for you to completely throw out what she's normally good at in exchange for maximum levels of bulk. So you have a like 4'3" person wielding a giant crusher that she has no right using. It's funny. It's
sounds fun.
adorable. It's awful. It's really fun. It's not great, but it's fun. Let me see. Actually, let's get the Steam page open here. I've been doing Baldur's Gate 3. Got a playthrough going on honor
Ooh,
mode with my
yes.
friend.
I
It's
uh
funny.
I did a nice long playthrough of that game and finished it and whatever the equivalent of tactician is, I forget what it's called.
Honor mode.
Maybe
What was the
it's been so long I haven't played it and since it came out basically. So it's been
Fair
2
enough.
years, something like that, yeah.
2023 and onward, but I have a friend I'm playing it with, and she has never done a full playthrough of Baldur's Gate, and we're doing it on honor mode, and it's been an experience the entire way through. Why the fuck did you do that? And then the entire fucking Gith Yankee crash aggro's onto us, and that was a hoot and a holler. Uh, let's see.
Yeah,
I
I
have
ended
a
up with
Borderlands 2 playthrough.
185 hours to play through that game. That was
Yeah,
it was brutally difficult at the hardest, that's for sure.
you can definitely sink a fair amount of time in there. Got my Borderlands 2 playthrough on Backhole. Just pop that open occasionally with some friends and play it. Oh, right. So I've actually recently started to kind of continue my deluge through the Elder Scrolls series, and I've been really enjoying my time playing the original Oblivion.
Oh, thank
Uh,
God. Yeah, that game fucking rules, dude.
I just got done with the Nine Divines DLC after beating the story, and I'm on the Shivering Isles right now.
The Shivering Isles is definitely a lot better than the Nine Divines. But yeah, it's
I get to meet the guy who almost killed off all the high elves before they got condemned to that little island, so it's an entire experience. But I have so at least with the original Game of the Year edition, there's an issue, at least on modern hardware, where the game runs at a faster rate and it increases the movement of everything around it. Uh, so my friends make fun of me for this, but I stand by my choice. I did select the fighter preset class, and that has been my commitment throughout that entire run. It has been pain, but you see, I've learned a strategy with this the issue of the frame rate. So I run fast just like anything else. I go into an Oblivion gate, I strip butt ass naked, and I just ignore everything and run straight for the fucking gate to grab the fucking sigil stone, and then I piss off.
hell yeah. Yeah, that game is as there's so many ways to play it. It's so much fun. Are you playing with any mods at all?
Nope, I'm 100%
Good
vanillaing that
man,
bitch.
good man. You know, I mean, Elder Scrolls modding is a whole thing, man. That's like there's a lot to be said about it, but I love me some vanilla Elder Scrolls games. I will take Oblivion, I'll take Morrowind, Skyrim. It's fine. It was fine.
My like personal census with it is while don't even get me started. The melee combat is absolute fucking booty cheeks. I'm just gonna put that out here. It's absolutely all over the place in Oblivion. Magic is really great though. I like the magic system, and the story has been leagues better over Skyrim in my opinion. But You just can't get much better than hearing the OG fucking "stop, you violated the law" levels of dialogue. It's absolutely peak. I think there's so I don't remember if it's in the game or not, but there is an NPC that was voiced by Todd Howard, and it's as every bit as glorious as you would expect. Like I'm talking chess club levels of lines from
Oh
this
yeah,
man. It's
I mean,
beautiful.
if you do what is it, COC pod test in the console or whatever, you get to go
Yeah.
do his test dialogue thing. It's so fucked. It's I mean, it's great. I think I know Todd Test existed in Morrowind. I don't remember if he voiced any of the NPCs in it though. I don't think he did, but it was that game, man. Morrowind is so good. If you haven't played Morrowind, you should play Morrowind.
I got it on the backlog, and I'm probably planning on playing it once I'm done with my Oblivion run.
Yes, dude, it's so good. Honestly, the problem with Morrowind is it makes the rest of the Elder Scrolls series kind of depressing. Like just the vision they had when they made Morrowind, oh, just magnificent. And they chipped away at it to make it more palatable for a mass audience over time, and it just kind of lost its way for what it was. But you go back and play Morrowind, and man, just the raw truth is, oh, it's I cannot speak highly enough about Morrowind. That game is a vibe, as the kids would say.
He's using generational slang. Get him? No. Um, I think to round it out, I pulled out my Xbox One that's been probably sitting in the closet for God who knows how long, and dusted it off. Gave it the nice touch up, and I booted up the original. I think it was the '08 or '09 when Dead Space came out release. And that's been. I mean, I'm not scared of it anymore, but I think I told you this story. Like my first serious foray into gaming was the seventh gen Xbox 360. But what kind of started the fucked up train of development that my brain has now ended up in was with that game. So context for those who do not know, my father gave my young ass the controller to Dead Space and said, "Connor, have at it." And then he immediately went upstairs. 5 to 10 minutes later, he heard me screaming. Now, did that fuck me up mentally? Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it. I'd be surprised if anyone hires me. But it was really fun. And it has kind of honed my taste into the things. Like, there are many, many more games that I'm playing right now, but honestly, I don't want to keep you here longer than I did. But no, seriously, Scott, thank you for coming.
Oh yeah, anytime.
You
I'm glad
are
to talk for as long as you want. Anytime, I'm always available to you. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. I think you've got a lot of great ideas for how things should be, and it's always interesting to get your perspective on the way things are and the way they should be.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just, I'm pioneering every chance I can get. I know that the opportunity will come at some point, but goddamn if I'm not a driven person to try to do it. But I'm hoping that by continuously marketing myself this month and next, PAX will open the gate, so to speak. But no, again, thank you. Seriously, I greatly appreciate it, and it was an absolute honor to have you on the show.
Yeah, anytime. I'm happy to show up anytime you need someone to talk to for the show, by all means.
Absolutely. And to close out this final segment, to the motherfucker who keeps asking me about my favorite VTuber, go fuck yourself. Anyway, this is Connor Talks Games. You heard it first. Scott Gurney from New Blood. Join me next week as I don't know, do a line of cocaine and talk about why Hoyo won't hire me.